Today's storybook is Peanuts. Lucy must be traded. Spring had sprung. The grass was green. The chalk lines on the baseball diamonds had just been drawn. The sky was blue and full of possibilities. It was baseball season. And once again, Charlie Brown was faced with the usual bad news. Our team is in trouble, Charlie Brown, Linus said. We're weak in every position. Except right field, Lucy said. She exceptionally cute. Linus ignored his sister. Our right fielder is completely hopeless, he went on. But cute, Lucy added. Charlie Brown, the team manager, sighed. His team had never won a game, but somehow he just couldn't give up on his missing players. Maybe all Lucy needed was a little more practice. Charlie Brown stepped off the pitcher's mound and yelled to Lucy, I'm going to hit you a fly ball. Smack. The ball went flying into right field. Lucy watched it coming toward her. She knew she was supposed to do something. What was it again? Right, she was supposed to catch the ball. Lucy reached her hand up in time to see the ball whiz past her glove into the bush. Lucy looked through the dense branches. She reached her hand among the twigs but couldn't find a ball. Finally, she gave up to carry the whole bush to the pitcher's mound. It's in here someplace. Good grief, Charlie Brown muttered. It was going to be a very long baseball season. On the night before the first game, Charlie Brown couldn't sleep. What kind of manager am I? He moaned. I couldn't run a baseball team. Nobody listens to me. They all hated me. The next morning, Charlie Brown huddled under the blankets, hoping for rain. Maybe no one else will show up either, he thought. I'll just stay in bed and Lucy interrupted his thoughts. Okay, manager, rise and shine! She yelled so loudly that she shouted the blankets right off Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown's first game of the season was against Peppermint Patty's team. When they got to the field, Peppermint Patty was ready and waiting. Why don't you warm up, Chuck? She suggested. They will start the game. Charlie Brown agreed, and the players took their positions on the field. Okay, I'll hit a few flies, he told them his teammates. Charlie Brown swung the bat. Smack! The bat went sailing through the blue sky high over the right field. It arched gently toward the green grass, right behind Lucy. This was not a good start. After she got warmed up, Lucy played even worse. Charlie Brown's team lost the game. And then 10 more games after that, when she wasn't making errors, Lucy was busy complaining. Well, we lost an unusual manager, Lucy said after the 11th defeat. What are you going to do about it? Charlie Brown looked thoughtful. Then he announced, I made a big decision. This is the time of year when all the big baseball trades are made. I'm going to try to improve our team with a few shrewd trades. That's a great idea, Lucy agreed. Why don't you trade yourself? But Charlie Brown had a different idea. He called Peppermint Patty. Gee, Chuck, the only good player you have is that little kid with the big nose. You mean Snoopy? Charlie Brown gasped. Oh, no. I could never trade him. I was thinking more of Lucy. Hello? Hello? Peppermint Patty had hung up. Later, Charlie Brown consulted with Linus. I told Peppermint Patty I wouldn't even trade Snoopy. But maybe I was wrong. Linus was shocked, and so was Snoopy. You mean you trade your own dog just to win a few games? Charlie Brown's eyes gazed over at the word win. He wondered what it would be like to be captain of the winning team. He could practically hear the crowd cheer. Charlie Brown decided to make the trade. Peppermint Patty agreed to give him 5 players in exchange for Snoopy. But as soon as Charlie Brown hung up the phone, he felt terrible. When he asked Snoopy to forgive him, the Beagle turned his back on Charlie Brown. The rest of the gang had the same reaction. Does winning a ball game mean that much to you? Schroeder demanded. I don't know, Charlie Brown said. I never won a ball game, Linus yelled. I don't even want to talk to you. Then he snatched away his blanket and added, and stop breathing on my blanket. Charlie Brown couldn't take it anymore. I was wrong to trade Snoopy. I could see that now, he said, tearing up the contract. I'm going to tell Peppermint Patty the deal is off. Just then, Peppermint Patty joined the group and saw the shredded contract. You must have gotten my message, she said. What message? Charlie Brown asked. Those 5 players I was supposed to trade said they quit baseball before they play on your team, Peppermint Patty explained. Sorry, Chuck. Charlie Brown had his smile from Peppermint Patty. Snoopy danced with joy. But that still didn't solve Charlie Brown's problems with Lucy. Hey, Miniature, Lucy said. How come we don't have cleats on our shoes? Cleats, he asked. You know, spikes, Lucy explained. Whenever I come up to talk to you like this, I wind up sliding down a mound. We had a better team if we had cleats in our shoes. We have a better team if you had something under your cap, Charlie Brown said. Lucy shouted back to him for right field. I bet Babe Ruth had cleats on her shoes. Charlie Brown couldn't stand it anymore. And Schroeder knew just how he felt. We gotta get rid of Lucy or we'll never win, Schroeder said. Just then Lucy told Charlie Brown she was going to stand in the shade because the sun was hurting her eyes. Why don't you pitch it so they're hit into the shade, she suggested. Suddenly Charlie Brown knew just what to do. Why don't you play from home from now on, he said. Pour yourself a nice cold glass of lemonade. Sit down in the kitchen. Leave the back door open and I'll pitch the ball so they hit it through the door and right to your table, Charlie Brown continued. Lucy was already home drinking her nice cold lemonade when it occurred to her that perhaps Charlie Brown was being sarcastic. So Lucy went back to the field with the snack. What's this? Charlie Brown asked, pointing in a bench. My fielder's glove and a pepperoni pizza for between innings, Lucy explained. Charlie Brown asked, what happens if you mix up the glove and a pizza? Lucy yelled, boy, you must think it really stupid. But the next play, what or cheese shot all over Charlie Brown's face when he caught Lucy's throw. Nobody couldn't believe Lucy had actually caught the ball, even with the pizza. She put her glove back on and scrambled onto the right field fence. Hey, manager, let's see him trying to hit one on the fence now. Sure enough, a high fly whistling by. Smack! Lucy caught the ball and tumbled backward out of the field. Charlie Brown turned to Schroeder and asked, do you think we can get the ball back and leave her on the other side of the fence? The next day, Peppermint Patty offered to help. Hey, Chuck, I'm calling to see if you want to trade right fielders. Charlie Brown was thrilled. I'd trade Lucy for anyone. Marcie isn't a very good player, Peppermint Patty admitted, but she has a lot of spirit. In the background, Charlie Brown heard Marcie wailed, I hate baseball! But he didn't care. Anyone was better than Lucy. Even before his first pitch, Charlie Brown wondered if he had gotten a better end of the deal. Marcie, you should be out of right field, told his new player. I'm happier near you, Charles, Marcie said. Actually, I only play on your team because I always been fond of you. But what if someone hits the ball to right field? Charlie Brown asked. Marcie gazed up at her dreamily. Who cares? Meanwhile, Peppermint Patty had her hands full with her new right fielder. This next hitter is pretty good, she said. So keep your eye on the ball, Lucille. Lucy complained. That's hard to do when you keep moving around. Lucy's eyes may have been on the ball, but her glove was nowhere near it. Peppermint Patty went at hit after hit bounced on the grass behind Lucy's head. After the game, Peppermint Patty called Charlie Brown. I made a mistake, Chuck. Lucy's the worst player I ever seen. You gotta take her back. Marcie was sad when she heard the trade was over. I guess I wasn't much help. I didn't score a single goal. I never even made a free throw. Charlie Brown didn't bother telling her that goals were in soccer and free throws were basketball. She was Peppermint Patty's problem now. With his team back together, Charlie Brown took the mound, and he wanted up for a pitch. He thought, maybe his dad Lucy back, she'll play better. Smack! The bat smacked the ball into right field. Thump! The ball bounced off Lucy's umbrella and plopped on the grass. Good grief, Charlie Brown wailed. It's not even raining! Lucy laughed. That's what you think. Kaboom! Thunder boomed. Lightning crashed and rain soaked the field. The team ran for cover, leaving Charlie Brown on the muddy mound. Rain drenched his cap and blurred his vision. Hey, where's everybody going? Charlie Brown shouted. It's just a little rain. As the field felt like a fish pond, Charlie Brown smiled. Another baseball season was over, and he still hadn't won the game, but at least his team was together, and there will always be next year. The end.